Hey guys, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, the official home of power mining analysis. In today's episode, Anthony Power and I are going to be examining the recent drop we've seen in global hash rate, some of the potential reasons why, and the impact this may or may not be having on the Pubco Bitcoin miners. We've got a lot to uncover in today's episode. Before we get into it, take a second, hit the like button, guys. Big help to myself and the channel. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to join and let us know in the comment section below what you think is behind this recent drop in hash rate and if you think this will be positive or negative for the miners. With that being said, let's get into today's video. Okay guys, here we go again. Another strong day for both Bitcoin and the miners. We just got off an interview with Luxor Technology. Very timely, Anthony, as we're going to be talking about curtailment, power strategy, and this global hash rate drop that we've been witnessing throughout the week here in today's podcast. Before we get into that though, Bitcoin itself having another strong session up, flirting with $108,000 US, which is quite impressive considering where we were only 24 hours ago.
Yeah, another good day for Bitcoin. Actually breached 108,000 earlier on in the day, so heading towards that number again, and yeah, looking like it's another positive week on the board.
It certainly is. Now, in terms of the miners, Anthony, we've got our heat map here. We've also got the Yahoo Finance view. A couple standouts on the board. Once again, CleanSpark back-to-back sessions here, leading the pack today, and IREN as well. Interesting, both of these companies vying for that 50 exahash per second target. In June, we obviously got confirmation from CleanSpark yesterday. IREN still yet to hear from, but these two heavyweights in the Bitcoin mining space duking it out again on the board today.
Yeah, so IREN have got till Monday next week to announce their increase in hash rate and whether they've achieved their target or not. But I'm on the belief that they will achieve the target. I'm already hearing that the directors will be in Childress or in Texas, certainly towards the end of this week. So that maybe going there and having a board meeting at the time they get the 50 exahash. It'd be nice to get a sort of an update during the month as to how far away they are, because that's 9 exahash from where they were at the end of May. That's a massive amount. That's literally the size of a medium-sized mining company. I mean, Hive Digital were only 9 exahash a couple of weeks ago, so that's a significant amount to put in 1 month. But we know from their updates over the last couple of years that when they set a target, they tend to deliver it.
Yeah, they certainly do. Now, speaking of CleanSpark, we've actually got access to their wallet. You can see the daily production. It's coming across X now that production has dropped in the neighborhood of about 10%. So this is interesting. Again, we'll come back to this later in the program, but starting to hear some concerning news that this hash rate drop may be in relation to North American miners curtailing, which is supported by these wallets we're seeing here.
Yeah. So you've got to remember that the daily production for May averaged about just over 22 Bitcoin a day. So that was using an average of hash rate of just over 42. Well, they've achieved 50 now. So really, we should see at least a 20% increase in production. But you're clearly showing there that it looks like it's dropped now into the 20 range, just over 20 Bitcoin per day, which is a significant shortfall than what they're expecting. And things we've heard over the last sort of 12 hours sort of align with that information now.
Yeah, they certainly do. Now, before we get into the specific details that we've heard here, we wanted to look at what's exactly happened over the last week. So if we look at Coin Wars, they show a real-time global hash rate. So it's effective to look at these smaller time frames. You can see here, global hash rate dropped all the way down to 632 exahash. Now, this is considerable. We've seen and talked about this heartbeat type pattern. However, this broke out of that previous 6-month channel. You can see it's now recovered all the way up to 932 exahash. So if you're looking at a percentage basis, Anthony, that's 300 exahash or nearly a 50% increase in just 48 hours time, which is truly remarkable. I wanted to get your thoughts on this. Then we'll take a look at the moving average version of the global hash rate as well.
Yeah, so we've seen effectively like a 40% drop to get down there, and you're quite right. Going from 632 to 930, that's a 50% increase, and we're still not anywhere near where we were about 3 days ago. So, obviously things have happened over the weekend. We saw obviously the issues in the Middle East that have been occurring there, and that's taken front and center page on most of the quality news press at the moment. But also, we've talked on the podcast, about the fact that we're in June now, and the fact that it's getting warmer in the States, and actually power becomes an issue when people are using things like air conditioning and et cetera, to keep the heat down in their domestic homes. And so when there's an increase in power requirement, the miners play really good citizens and turn off. And this can be, looked at more so when you consider the concentration of mining within North America.
Yeah, it's really quite remarkable. And we just got off the interview with Luxor again. Ben Harper, he's the director of derivatives there. So, very insightful as it relates to some of the hedging strategies, specifically around power and electricity that the miners in Texas and the US are using. Now, if we go over to the hash rate index, the Luxor dashboard here, this is a 7 day moving average of the global hash rate so a little bit more effective to smooth out some of those ebbs and flows. Even on this chart, though, Anthony, you can see that big dip. They're showing it currently in the 810 range. If we look at their interactive dashboard, you can see it's showing 808 for the global hash rate in terms of exahash. But again, a major dump here based on what we've seen over the last 6 months.
Yeah, you can say, literally 15% come down in terms of the 7 day average in a very short space of time. But even if you look at the 7 day average, which is trying to smooth out all the volatility, that graph still looks volatile to me all the way through. There's so many peaks and troughs going there. And more so, if you look from March onwards, there's been some quite significant swings, week by week, even on a 7 day average, which basically takes out a lot of the volatility. So it's still showing how volatile it was. That previous graph from CoinWall showed volatility over the last month was pretty much like a heartbeat. So this is taking it down 7 days. If we show this by year, it'd be a lot more smoother. But this is 7 day average, and this is more appropriate to use for this. But quite clearly, we'll see that go up as quick as it's gone down in the next couple of days as the 7 day average starts to take effect of the 932 that we've achieved, literally the day after we reported the hash rate dropping so quickly.
Yeah, interesting to follow this story through. Now, this is obviously presenting opportunities for the miners. We just talked about the global hash rate dropping. As it stands now, the next estimated difficulty adjustment is a reduction to the tune of around 8.5% to take place this weekend. And then you can see we also highlighted the Bitcoin price there, Anthony, which is obviously a strong tailwind for the miners. So we initially thought this large drop in hash rate could be a result of the geopolitical tensions going on. Obviously, Israel-Iran conflict over the weekend here. However, upon further investigation, and you had a pretty good intuition about this, Anthony, it looks like only around 3.5 to 4.5% of global hash rate originates in Iran. Based on what's been reported. So that could account for maybe 35 to 45 exahash. However, as you highlighted earlier in the week, Anthony, there likely is more to play here. Now, TeraWulf came out with a very interesting tweet last night talking about a current heat wave that's straining the grid in the northeast of the United States. So, a region that's not traditionally known for warm temperatures this time of year. Also interesting that they're proactively coming out with this statement before month end. So they're highlighting the National Grid Demand Response Program that they're part of and curtailing approximately 200 megawatts worth of their load or profile. Interesting to see this one come out just a few days in advance of month end.
Yeah, and we can assume that it's not just that particular area. We've heard nothing else from miners. We don't tend to hear during the month that they have curtailed. Now, when you bear in mind how much hash rate is in the United States, approximately 36% for the whole of the states, take Texas to one side as a separate entity, there's 20% of the global hash rate within Texas itself. That's 200 exahash when the hash rate's at 1,000 exahash there. Now, we know Texas because obviously we deal with a lot of the miners that are in Texas there. And as we look at the weather down there, we can see that the weather conditions are getting hotter and hotter in that particular state. And what that means is, as it gets hotter, there's more requirement for power, and so therefore the miners will have to curtail to give power back to the grid to let the domestic requirement be covered. And miners are really good systems in this. They can switch their machines off in literally minutes. Whole sites, 40, 50 exahash sites, literally less than a minute, the whole site can be closed down and stop powering. And they can equally power up in that period of time as well, which is great when there's power available.
Yeah, and in the case of Marathon, Anthony, as we're going to learn about later in the presentation, they may be taking that from minutes down to seconds. Now, you talk about the weather report here. I feel like we're doing our first inaugural weather program. We've got Corsicana showing in Celsius and, of course, in Fahrenheit for our US viewers, and Childress. So, two of the more popular locations, obviously the Riot and IREN facilities here. You can see the temperature is increasing, Anthony, getting quite hot for this time of year. And this is a point of interest because this coincides with the start of what's known as 4CP. So June is the first of the 4 months in this program. I'll let you talk about that one a little bit because I think at the end of the day, this probably has more impact on the global hash rate drop than maybe some of the geopolitical headlines or tensions we've heard of this weekend.
Yeah, so as we know, Texas has got its own power source and is separate from the rest of the United States. And in those months where there is high demand, and Texas focuses on identifying the four highest 15-minute demand periods, and those occur in the months of June, July, August, and September, the summer months. And basically, during those periods there, the ERCOT, who are the provider, they know that the demand for power increases during the day during certain times. And what they do is they say to the mining companies operating there, or those that are using high power and able to curtail really quickly, curtail between these hours, and you will receive some benefits in the form of lower transmission costs, to help you recover some of the costs for curtailing. Now, additional to that, some of those miners in Texas who are fortunate to have what we call a power purchase agreement in place, a PPA, the likes of CIFR Mining and the likes of Riot Platforms spring to mind. And there were other miners that had them previously, but some of those miners have gone on to what we call market price now, which is basically paying the current spot price. And we know that power in Texas changes every 15 minutes. So when the power increases significantly, miners will switch off as well. If it doesn't become profitable to mine, then it's no use paying significant power if you're not getting the same revenues through. But those on a PPA have the choice. They can continue to mine during, when power spikes, just to produce Bitcoin, or they have the alternative to curtail and then sell that potential power back to the grid and receive what we call power credits. And we have some examples here of the likes of what Riot Platforms have received in the last few months from their recent updates, and it shows quite clearly two elements to that. We talked about the 4CP, which is a demand. We talked about 4CP, which is a demand response initiative. And so therefore miners will switch off when told and receive a reduction in transmission costs. And then the second part of that is power sales, which those with a PPA agreement are able to receive benefits by curtailing and selling that power back to the grid. And both of these are received in lower power costs for the future. So they don't receive physical cash or anything like that through. It's basically they get a credit against any future in energy costs, so it reduces future costs by those figures. So effectively, if costs go down in a company, it's the same as receiving additional revenues at the same time. So they're choosing to show it as in their updates as like a revenue, but it's actually a reduction in costs.
Yeah, it certainly is. We've got the example from last month here from Riot, so May. So keep in mind, this is a month outside of the 4CP program, not traditionally known for large power credit or power sales volume. But if you look back to prior years, Anthony, this can be quite considerable, especially in the case, again, of Riot here, who've got those large PPAs in place, actually turning a what could be seen as a challenge into a big opportunity for the company.
Yeah, certainly an opportunity in 2023 when we first started seeing these type of updates incorporating these type of credits. And if I remember rightly, I mean, I think Riot achieved something like 70 million, just over 70 million during that year for not mining Bitcoin. So that was a significant. Yes, it has its, people will complain that why, a big mining company, stops mining and is able to deliver these significant cost savings. But bear in mind, the Bitcoin mining industry is not the only industry in Texas. We have all the sort of like the big car manufacturers. We have aluminium smelters who use a significant amounts of power. They also benefit in the same way that the mining companies benefit as well. So it's everyone with power, if they're able to curtail, they've been receiving benefits. So it's a very small bucket. I think when we looked at this before, I think it was like 3% of ERCOT savings that goes out to all these companies that actually hits the mining industry, Bitcoin mining industry, 3% of the whole pie. So it's not a significant amount, but it's great to have it as a story if you want to create fantasy about how bad the Bitcoin mining space is.
Yeah, it certainly is. And that narrative has changed quite a bit over the years. Now, the final piece of the pie here, a little bit of a news update from Marathon in relation to exactly what we covered or talked about in today's podcast. So, the article is titled Hyper Responsive Load Management System for Hyperscalers. Mara and Tay Power Solutions partner for first of its kind grid efficiency platform. So, as you can see here, Anthony, and you just highlighted, the Bitcoin miners are really known for the ability to power up and down their facilities really at will on a minute's notice. They also don't have any end customer, so there's no real negative impact or downstream impact to that curtailment. Marathon taking this a step further, and I know you just listened to Fred's comments in relation to this as well, but taking this a step further from turning on and off in minutes, now down to seconds or fractions of a second, and harnessing this technology across their portfolio.
Yeah, I was fortunate to be in London for the AIM Summit in April, and Fred talked about a specific topic and how he at Mara were looking to work with the HPC industry and look to be able to work together to manage the power load on the grid. And one thing I've already explained is miners are great at switching on and switching off. They can switch off in like say seconds, whole sites. If you turn around to an aluminium smelter or a car manufacturer and said, "Can you stop your power?" They'd look at you like there's no chance. I mean, aluminium smelter, it would take 30 days to heat to the right level it's required. So they're not going to turn the power off anytime soon. But Bitcoin mining is absolutely the right industry. And it's harmonizing. You see these HPC data centers where, the power load is volatile. So Bitcoin mining can work hand in hand with that. And it looks like Mara have working together with Tay Power, have come up with a great partnership to deliver both industries under the same umbrella of power, effectively.
Most definitely. So we'll watch how that one continues. Now, in closing here, you guys, it is the final week or going into the final week of Miner Madness 3.0. Obviously, a big competition. We've talked about the success, the results, some of the names on the leaderboard and on the analyst leaderboard. But with that being said and coming to a close, we've got Miner Madness 4.0 registration open now. So you're going to want to go over to the website, sign up for the newsletter. You'll get an invitation or link for Miner Madness 4.0. You can put your information in there. It's all automated, and you'll be able to get updates on the newsletter in addition to company features, leadership features, and some back or behind the scenes access, Anthony. So a good competition shaping up here. We encourage you guys to enter that one, and should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Coming to the end of this one here, looks like everyone is pretty much in profit for this last competition. And let's hope we have a similar outcome for the next competition there. But yeah, the form to enter is going to be sent out to everyone that signs up for the newsletter. The link's in the newsletter, but we'll also send you one to your email address direct. We've already had quite a lot of interest already. A lot of applicants have already entered. 6th of July is the closing date, so we'll start live on the 7th of July when market opens. So get your entries in before that there. But some great prizes, and one particular good prize that you mentioned earlier this week, Bryce.
Yeah, we're going to be conducting a podcast appearance with the winner of Miner Madness 4.0, both the analyst winner and the regular leaderboard, posting that on the Power Mining Analysis YouTube channel, the platform, and the website. So you'll enshrine your legacy in the Bitcoin community if you're able to win the 4th edition of Miner Madness. So with that being said, you guys, a big day for miners and Bitcoin. Make sure you check out our Luxor interview. We'll see you back here tomorrow.